All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating, intensely provocative text called Where Are You Going? It actually originates from Life Shanuin founder Guide Sufeng. And let me tell you, this text offers a deeply logical, almost Socratic critique on the blind pursuit of spiritual practices. Across the globe, millions of us dedicate our lives to these spiritual disciplines, right? But Guide Sufeng steps way back and asks us to fundamentally examine the why and the where. Through a series of super pragmatic questions, he challenges us to apply the exact same rigorous logic to our spiritual journeys that we naturally apply to our everyday lives. It is a brilliant thought experiment, so let's dive in.
So Shufeng hooks us immediately with this foundational question. He notes that since ancient times, practitioners are literally as numerous as the hairs on an ox. But what are you actually practicing for? What exactly are you doing and what are you cultivating? It's so easy to just fall into a routine of meditation or prayer or study simply because everyone else is doing it, or maybe because it just feels like the right thing to do. But we really need to stop and interrogate those deepest, often totally unquestioned spiritual motivations. Because if you don't know exactly what you're practicing for, how on earth do you know if you're making any progress at all?
Section 1. The Good Person Dilemma. Seeking a standard and direction. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I practice just because I want to be a good person. But Shofeng asks a brilliant question here. What kind of person is actually a good person? Think about it. Is a president a good person? What about a billionaire? Or a prostitute, a shepherd, a beggar? Without a definitive, rock-solid objective standard, labeling any of these vastly different people as a good person is completely subjective, isn't it? He even throws in this incredibly provocative thought. Why do you have to be a good person anyway? Why not a bad person? The reality is, without a clear standard and a true target direction, the mere desire to be good is just directionless. Think about how you plan a simple weekend getaway. Physical travel requires you to know exactly if the destination exists. You check if the scenery is nice, right? You map out the distance, you book clear transport, and you make absolutely sure you have the right visa or entry proof so you don't get turned away at the border. We are so meticulous. But when it comes to our eternal spiritual journeys, we often operate completely blind. We pursue unproven destinations with totally unknown entry requirements. Guy Zhufeng asks, isn't this way too blind? Aren't you basically risking walking straight into a wolf's den? Let's apply that everyday travel logic to a specific destination. Some folks say I practice simply to go to heaven. But Shufeng hits us with these rapid-fire, wonderfully literal questions. Where exactly is heaven? Have you been there? Have you seen it? Who can definitively prove it exists? And logistically speaking, how far is it from the human world? Are we taking a train, a spaceship, or are we walking? And here's the kicker. Can just anyone go? Because if anyone can go, why are you bothering to practice? And if not, what is the exact standard of practice required to get your visa to enter?
Section 2. Unpacking popular destinations, the kingdom, the Pure Land, and the Tao. So let's systematically examine a few more of these major spiritual endpoints. What's wild is how many massive gaps in logic pop up when you really look at them. For those aiming for the kingdom of heaven by reciting Jesus' words, Sufeng points out that Jesus himself literally said he won't recognize everyone who calls him Lord. So what guarantees he's going to recognize you and let you in? Or, for those chanting to reach the Western Pure Land, did Buddha ever actually promise that just sitting at home chanting guarantees you entry? Sufeng boldly points out that Buddha actually said no such thing. And what about immortality and the Tao? What exactly is an immortal? What do they eat? What do they do for fun? And what even is the Tao? Where is it? And what happens once you actually get it? We are chasing these goals without answers to the most basic foundational questions.
Section 3. The Illusion of Guides and Joy. Questioning the Masters and Euphoria. This brings us to a huge blind spot, our human tendency to just blindly follow self-proclaimed spiritual masters. People will claim they don't even need to know the destination because their master is omnipotent. But Guide Shufeng asks this highly practical, almost funny question. Can your all-powerful master make you grow just 1 centimeter taller? No? Well, if they can't alter basic physical reality, how can you possibly trust them to lead you to an ideal spiritual realm? Are they actually from that place? Because if they can't prove it, isn't it entirely possible your guide is just as lost as you are? Now, this is a wildly vivid analogy from the text that perfectly illustrates the danger of chasing subjective spiritual highs. People read scriptures or listen to a lecture and suddenly claim they are overflowing with dharma joy. Shuifeng compares this to a fly landing on dog excrement, declaring it a total delicacy and feeling immense joy, while a bee just looks on in absolute pity. I mean, injecting heroin or taking ecstasy would produce a subjective joy, right? The point is, just because you feel good or you think you've unlocked some ultimate secret doesn't mean you've found objective truth. If your method is flawed, you might reach old age completely empty-handed.
Section 4. The Afterlife Mystery, the Tragedy of Formatting Your Memory. Now let's tackle the ultimate goal for so many practitioners, securing a good situation in their next life. Su Feng challenges us with this completely straightforward question. Do you know your past life? Almost universally, the answer is a flat no. So the logical follow-up hits hard. If you have absolutely zero knowledge of your past life, how can you possibly prepare for or know anything at all about your next one?
To really grasp this, we have to talk about memory formatting. In folklore, before you reincarnate, your soul drinks a bowl of soup on the bridge of helplessness. This acts literally like a hard drive wipe. Your memory is completely formatted. The newborn person in that next life is 100% disconnected from who you are right now. Guide Shifeng argues that if this memory wipe actually happens, your current spiritual hardships and sacrifices offer absolutely no benefit to the totally amnesic entity you are going to become.
This comparison really makes it sink in. Imagine incredibly frugal parents who scrape by denying themselves everything just to save a massive inheritance for their child. But the child, never having experienced the parent's suffering, carelessly squanders the whole thing and ends up totally destitute. Now think about a spiritual practitioner enduring suffering in this life just to pass karmic wealth to a future self. If that future self has zero memory of your current struggles, are you actually helping them? Is hoarding spiritual wealth for a total stranger really an act of love, or is it an act of harm?
Which brings us right back to square one. Where are you actually going, and how, practically, are you going to get there? Through Life Shenyuan founder Guide Shufeng's intensely logical lens, we are left with a provocative demand for actual proof. Do you have a real treasure map you can share? Who is the true ultimate guide in this world? This explainer isn't about telling you what to believe, but it absolutely leaves us with a profound challenge. We have to deeply question the genuine logic behind our own spiritual roadmaps. Whatever path you decide to walk, make sure you aren't doing it with your eyes closed.